welcome back to another episode of the Blue Honor Vlog. I'm Kay Williams, author of op-dec, Operation Deceit, the Trailokya trilogy, and Blue Honor, for which the vlog is named. That is a Civil War drama. I haven't read in a long time from one of my books, so I'm going to read from this book today. And it's one of my favorite scenes. It gets a little of the tension between the main characters going. And I'm going to also show in the corner here some of the artificial intelligence renderings that I've been working on for op-dec as illustrations and stuff of the scenes, etc. So let's go ahead and get started. Claire woke to the same grim scene. She rolled onto her back and saw the low arched ceiling hovering above. The light on the desk was off, leaving only the weak stream of light from the slit of the curtain. Claire sat up. She rubbed her neck and yawned, recalling the jacket Carson had given her earlier. Her eyes slipped to her arm. "Hungry," Carson's voice broke through the muffled sounds of the grinding engine. He sat on the stool, peering through the dimness at her. Claire refused to acknowledge him. She wanted to hang on to the lies of her dreams a moment longer. Parties in New York reveled in her memory. She saw friends and acquaintance, shopped and ate at wonderful smelling restaurants. "Yeah, I could eat," Claire answered after the long pause. "It would concern me a great deal if you could not," Carson joked. Claire swung her legs over the edge of the bunk. His joke died in her coolness. She pulled his jacket tighter around her small frame. "I'll be back with some dinner," Carson said. Carson's shadow blotted the light as he left. Claire lifted her eyes. The hatchway yawned before her. She could see the men at work on the other side. They kept businesslike calm. She assumed the behavior a good sign. Beyond them, the captain stood by the other hatch, where she remembered a small kitchen. He chatted with someone on the other side. Two sets of legs moved in the shadows there. Carson leaned out, smiling and talking. He traded his suit for a pair of work pants and mariner's sweater. It was more natural on him, especially since he hadn't shaved and his hair was tousled. Claire studied him, deciding he more resembled the name Fritzy her mind had given him, rather than being the incarnation of Apollo. Still, she wondered how someone who appeared so virtuous could be such a monster. Her eyes trailed down the jacket she wore. It smelled of him. She stretched her arm out. The cuff still hung past her fingertips. She rolled them. Stretching her legs out, she looked at her feet and frowned. Her toe had made a hole in her stocking. Thinking about the devil in gift wrap, she pulled the toe of her stocking and watched it sag back. Such nice things could be so easily destroyed by one tiny hole. Fritzy acted surprisingly kind since they left the yacht. She tried to remind herself of the gun he waved in the theater, in the car, and in her home. He hadn't shown the gun since he closed her and her aunt in the yacht cabin. She supposed he found no need to. Others brandished their weaponry for him, like gold watches and bankrolls. He made them do his dirty work. Much like her hose, she could see the squandered worth. "Here you are," Carson's voice startled her as he entered the hatch and came through the curtain. Claire opened her mouth to speak. She immediately closed it, deciding not to. He stood there with a gentle smile, holding the plate. Claire took the offering and sat it on her lap. The food resembled a half-palatable blue plate special from a roadside diner. Regardless, it was food, and she was starved. Claire picked up the fork, wanting to forget that his kindness meant something. He only did it to curry favor with her father, so when he could pay him later, he would remember his efforts and extend his gratitude a bit further. Carson set a tin mug down and snatched up the luggage, placing it beside Claire on the bench. He grabbed a stool and set it beside the small cabinet. He sat, stretching his legs the length of the room beneath Claire's dangling feet. Claire stuffed the first forkful in her mouth, careful to keep her feet away from him. She soon forgot the uncomfortable arrangement, impressed by the fare they served. She thought a tin can of hash or something like it would be the special. However, these Germans seemed to have standards after all. These men faced the possibility of horrible death day after day. She supposed their superiors would supply them with the best. She eyed her plate, wondering how the food could offer consolation or appreciation. How is it? Karsten asked. Noticing her hesitation, he drew a small notebook from his pocket and flipped through the pages. Claire murmured between bites. She wondered if he meant to write down every detail, including how she liked the meals. She cast her eyes sideways, continuing to eat, but more curious about what he did. Maybe it was his diary. It probably does not compare to Parker House, but it will keep you from starving, he added, half paying attention as he read something in the notebook. He found a small pen in his pocket and scribbled in the notebook and then pocketed both. Claire swallowed. Where's my aunt? She is sitting with your father, Karsten said. What could she possibly want with him? Claire said, disgusted. She lost her appetite and her curiosity of his notebook. Pushing at her food with the fork, she thought of a day long ago that led up to all of this. If there is a God, Claire prayed. Claire fell silent. She dug her eyes into the panel, door opposite of where she sat. She trembled with anger. You have already learned that things are not always what they seem, Karsten said. Perhaps that can help you to survive this time. Your aunt is most likely bartering your lives as the alternative seems so deplorable to you. You expect me to abandon my beliefs and become one of you? Claire asked. What are your beliefs, Miss Healy? Karsten asked, leaning forward. Claire set her plate on the table behind his head. He waited for her answer without flinching at the move. I hardly think this is the time for a philosophical discussion, Claire replied. Then I will leave you to your supper. Karsten stood. He picked up the plate and handed it back to her. Do not waste your food. I am not sure when I will be able to feed you again, and these men would not appreciate their rations being thrown away. Claire reluctantly took the plate, frowning at him. He was just as evil as he was good-looking, regardless of how much sense he made. Though things may not be what they seem, he still delivered every direction with a thorn. If she wanted to survive, she best stay smart. Antagonizing her captor went in a whole other direction. Claire finished her meal alone. She lay back on the bunk and tried to relax. Her mind ran with a surge of thoughts, from how her father betrayed his family to what Sari and Eddie might be doing that night. Her mind eventually slipped to memories of her mother. Claire and her aunt may very well suffer her fate. More likely they faced imprisonment in a work camp. She and her aunt would never comply with father's wishes. He would need to be rid of them to complete his plans. Claire imagined her father would remarry and start a new family. He held no remorse for what he did, and he would continue on just as well. How is dinner, little girl? Aunt's voice called from the hatch. She tried hard to be cheerful. Fine, Claire replied, pushing at the empty plate. I was just sitting here feeling sorry for myself. Well, you're the smarter of the two of us, Aunt said. She sighed miserably, touching her hair. What is it? Claire asked, sitting up. Your father, Aunt said. She set Claire's case back on the floor and sat beside her. I don't know how you could be his. When I see your mother again, I'll beat out of her who really fathered you. Claire smiled, relieved that she showed no likeness to the devil she owed her name. She touched Aunt's arm. What did he say? Nothing, really, Aunt said. He just speaks in that condescending manner. He won't speak to any of the crew, just Mr. Reiner. It's as if they don't exist. I suppose that should be some consolation. He generally hates everyone who isn't of use to him. I wonder how he'll talk to Hitler, Claire said. This made them both smile. Well, if your father doesn't tell him how to run things, I'll tell him where to go. The days blended together. Claire's only relief from the dreariness of the sub and the monotony of the engines was when Karsten took her above decks. On the tower of the bridge, she took in the fresh air until the Allied Navy chased them back deep below the waves. The captain made it his business to avoid confrontations. Claire was thankful for it. Their ordeal managed to save lives on her side of the war. The sting of facing death eased in light of saving some Joes. On one such event, Claire looked far out over the gently rolling waves. The desolate tract stretched for miles. The moon hung as a sliver smile in a sky of sparkling dust. The sound of the engines was almost bearable from there. She gripped the rail and shut her eyes, silently counting her temper down. The cold spray felt invigorating as it misted over her face. She hated the idea of going back down inside the stinking tub. Bad enough she wore the captain's stinking weather jacket to be above decks. She just wanted to stand there and pretend she had taken a shower. It would have been perfect if the eyes boring into her back could be swept over the side. Tomorrow morning the coast should be on the horizon, Carsten said, joining her. He scratched at his scruffy chin, grown in over the many days at sea. He wore a weather jacket and hat as well, issued to him and her father when they boarded. The men had been expected to board alone, so few provisions remained for the women. We'll be in France. Lorient. Claire's eyes popped open. The scene before her was striking, but it wasn't as sweet as when Fritzy stood invisible on the other side of the bridge. She would have settled for him just keeping quiet, but he never did. Is that the last we'll finally see of you? Claire asked, lofting the words at him like a punch. Unfortunately for you, we will be spending a great deal of time together. Carsten smiled at her. The insinuation was clear. He liked to insinuate things when she got feisty with him. Unfortunately for you, Fritzy, Claire said back, cracking a sarcastic smile. Carsten chuckled. And I thought we were getting to be fantastic friends, Liberty Belle. Carsten touched the collar of his jacket, poking from beneath the captain's coat. He smiled and turned away. Placing his foot on the bottom of the rail, he folded his arms to rest on the top and displayed his pleasure that she still wore the garment. Maybe you're not such a great snoop after all, Claire said, holding her chin up. Maybe not, but so far I've been able to evade the best of your men, living right under their noses for months. Bet you're pretty proud, Claire said. She set her fist on her hip and faced him, gripping the rail with her other hand to steady herself. But you didn't put one over on me, did you? Quite, Carsten said. Would you be proud if you were doing such a fine job for your side? He paused, eyeing her. But you are not, are you? He placed his fingers on her chin, lifting it to better catch her reaction. As for you, I think you are dealt with. I don't know, Claire said, choking back the emotions that rose within her. The beard failed to ruin his handsome features. Now he simply looked like a strapping Viking god instead of the fair Greek one. She stepped to the side, reclaiming her space and senses. I bet I could have fooled you in the matter of a minute and get myself right out of this. Look, Fraulein. Carsten moved closer to tower over her. Hands on hips, his eyes took on the usual iciness. I'm the only friend you will have in the Reich. Some friend, Claire snarled, tipping her face toward him. Carsten shrugged his shoulders and grinned. His eyes slipped to her mouth and then back. The ice glinted deviously in that look. Claire huffed and gave him her back, folding her arms. She watched the sea roll, wishing it would swallow him alive. Night sky and waves no longer calmed her nerves. She shoved away the rail and went to the hatch without her nervy escort. She climbed down the ladder and left her short time in the fresh air. She needed to hide beside her aunt, where he couldn't press himself against her or remind her of the state of affairs. So at this point in the book, Claire has been kidnapped by Carsten and her father, and they are being transported to Germany from Boston. She is a bit distraught, struggling with strange emotions and stuff, and just, from that first meeting and stuff at the dinner party and how striking he was, etc., and just trying to wrangle that with the reality of what's going on, that he is a Nazi spy. And it's like these things are so at odds that this package, for lack of a better term, is so beautiful, but what's contained within it is so grotesque. And she is at their mercy. And it's almost like her brain is trying to negotiate this, like, maybe he's likable enough that, I can do what I gotta do to survive. He's put in that situation. We never know what we would do if we were kidnapped and we were forced into a situation where we had to do something to survive. And, women especially are often taught, be kind. Be kind to men no matter who they are. And that is a survival tactic, that is ingrained within us. We don't even know that it's being taught to us. We just learn to do this so that we don't make them angry and they don't kill us. And she literally is facing possible death, or death camp, or work camp, something like that. And you know, I wrote it and I still feel like I can't even imagine what it would be like to be trapped like that. And your only hope of survival is to try and warm up a little bit more to your captor and hope that they take pity and at some point let you go. And it's like that's what Claire is struggling with at this point. What I do enjoy between them, because it is kind of delightful in another aspect, is the little play between them, the two sides fighting, Liberty Bell and Fritzy, you know. It's like just that mocking back and forth and how they just go. And, you know, that harkens back to the playfulness of the 1940s. And, you know, even though this is like a noir-esque thing and stuff, it just has that, you know, toying and stuff. Like, they're not really trying to sling at each other yet. So it's just these name calling, and they're trying to like work it out and navigate it. But you're starting to pick up that sexual tension and stuff between them, which is like crazy because he kidnapped her. But like I said, when she met him, it was like that. She saw him, she was like, that's nice. And she's sensing that there's something there that she can work with somehow. And, you know, the common sense part of her is saying, are you fucking crazy? You know, and that's really what's holding her back. I mean, she does still have a sense, but she's young and hopeful and trying to survive. And she starts to learn more about him and his limitations and the things he will and won't do as time goes on through the book. So that play and stuff between them is a lot more about her figuring out how much can I push him and what will he take. And that's going to tell her, is he truly evil? Or is he someone that is caught up in the circumstances like I'm caught up in what is going on with this individual? Because she cannot reconcile what she knows with what she's learning, what she sees. It becomes very complicated. And I think that we run into that a lot in our own lives. We meet people and, you know, they look a certain way and we have certain assumptions about them, and then something happens to reveal a greater part of them, but we really don't know all of them, and it really changes the picture. But then as we get to know them, things start to frame a little bit differently, and we get more and more information, and it's like, you know, it's probably why our grandparents and parents say don't judge a book by its cover. I don't say that because I've very rarely been wrong about someone. You know, I get that read. You know, my brain is very good at picking up the clues on people. And, you know, Claire is fighting right now, trying to understand. He's not giving me the clues like my father does. And my father is clearly a sociopath. And things that he did to my mother. And this one, he's doing the actions, but something's not adding up. So you'll have to read the book and figure out why that's not adding up. And hopefully I will start work on the sequel. It is written, so at this point what I need to do is do my draft. My redraft, because I have let it sit for some time as I made sure that I got out the Trailokya series and got that forward. So I hope that you've enjoyed this reading and the art. Thank you. Make sure you subscribe and come back for the next episode next month. Thank you.